What's up, Dragon Brood? We are here on day 8 of Innistrad Crimson Vow previews, and honestly, I thought today was going to be the last day, but we still are missing about 60-ish cards from the set, so I don't know where those are. Everybody kind of assumed we'd have a full set preview today, but maybe they're just going to save them for tomorrow because it's Friday. So, it is what it is. Kind of makes me, puts me in a weird spot deciding what tomorrow's format's going to be for the channel, what videos we're going to put up, but I'll figure something out for you. I'm not going to leave you hanging. But for today, let's talk about day 8 of Innistrad Crimson Vow previews. Also, before we get rolling, if y'all would be so kind to hop over and check out PowrDragn reviews and reacts, I want to say thank you to everybody who came over, subscribed, got me enough that I can secure the name now, and that is fantastic. Lots of fun stuff going up over there. Just had a great video go up yesterday, actually. And if you would like to be part of deciding what's going to appear on the channel or have your decks featured here as we move into the next season, remember to check out the memberships on the YouTube channel down below. For just 99 cents a month, your vote could count on what's going to show up here. Now, getting into stuff today, this first one we do have to use a translation here, but is Ill-Tempered Hermit, 2 red for a 3/3 human werewolf. Whenever Ill-Tempered Hermit is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to any target. You can pay a red and a colorless to give it +2/+0 until end of turn. That's already pretty strong, right? If it blocks anything, you can kill something else. You can shoot a planeswalker. You can hit the opponent, right? You can block things bigger than it, and all the damage would go wherever you want. So lots of cool stuff going on with this card. Then the backside is whenever a permanent you control is dealt damage, Howling Pack's Avenger deals that much damage to any target. Same thing, paid to give it +2/+0. That makes it even better because then everything on your side of the table now can fling damage somewhere, right? That's actually pretty big. I mean, admittedly, this card is flinging the damage, but everything that deals damage to your stuff matters, and you can deal damage to your own stuff, and that matters. It doesn't matter what the source is, which is pretty cool, and it doesn't even say combat damage, it just says dealt damage. So this card actually could be pretty good for the werewolves. All right, we have Edgar, Charmed Groom, which I guess is the resurrected Edgar Markov. 2 colorless, white-black, 4/4, legendary vampire noble. Other vampires you control get +1/+1. When Edgar Charmed Groom dies, return to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control. The backside is Edgar Markov's Coffin, legendary artifact. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a 1/1 white and black vampire creature token with lifelink and put a bloodline counter on Edgar Markov's Coffin. Then, if there are 3 or more bloodline counters on it, remove those counters and transform it. I know a lot of people seem disappointed with this one because they are fans of the old Edgar Markov cards, but truthfully, I think from a design standpoint and a flavor perspective, this seems okay. I mean, it's a 4-mana 4/4 that pumps all your other vampires, which is cool. Granted, it's black-white, not black-red, so that does matter a little bit, but there are some white vampires, as we've seen. It does get to generate even more creatures after it dies, which is pretty cool. I don't think you'd get it back more than once because you're talking at that point to having to be on turn 10 or 11 for that to work out the way you want. But yeah, I kind of dig it. It's a neat card. Now, again, I don't know how many of these you would play in a list, but if I'm playing something with white and black vampires, yeah, you go ahead and play a couple of copies of this. Avabruck Caretaker, 4 colorless, green, 4/4, hexproof. Human werewolf. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put 2 +1/+1 counters on another target creature you control. It's a 4/4. Then on the backside, it has hexproof. All of the permanents you control have hexproof. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put 2 +1/+1 counters on each creature you control, and it's a 6/6. I like all the words on this card. The problem is I just don't know how relevant the words are. But I will say this, though, that it does have the downside that if it's the only thing on the field, it doesn't get to put counters on itself because it does say other creatures. But it is a 6/6 with hexproof on the backside and gives all your other stuff hexproof, which is very big. Possibly the best thing you could do at 6 mana for werewolves. There is something else fighting for that slot, but it is playable. So, I mean, I could see 1 or 2 of these going into some of the list. All right, we have Welcoming Vampire, 2 colorless and a white for a 2/3 flying vampire, because it's vampire in the name, obviously. Whenever one or more other creatures with power 2 or less enter the battlefield under your control, draw a card. This ability triggers once each turn. So this is just generally solid, right? It's 3 mana, 2/3, it flies, it gets you extra cards. I think the trick for this will just be deciding where it lives, right? What does the rest of the deck look like that wants to play this? Is it going in mono white aggro stuff? Is it going in vampire builds with white? Is it in Boros aggro of some sort? Because it does fly and get you extra cards. But it does have that flexibility to go into a few things, and only having one white in the mana cost actually makes it pretty splashable, even if some scenarios maybe you're going heavy red black and you want to just dip into white a little bit. So this card probably does get some play on some level. Odric, Blood Cursed, 1 colorless, red white, legendary creature, vampire soldier, 3/3. When Odric Blood Curse enters the battlefield, create X blood tokens, where X is the number of abilities from among flying, first strike, double strike, death touch, haste, hexproof, indestructible, lifelink, menace, reach, trample, and vigilance found among creatures you control. Count each ability once. This is cool in the sense of, like, it's a throwback to the old Odrics and the things they do. Granted, those never were huge on their own anyway. They got a little bit of play in some of the commander formats, but they weren't great for 60 card. This card probably is an okay commander in some instances where you're going to play it, make like 3 to 5 blood tokens, but otherwise it's just a 3/3. For 60 card formats, this isn't a great card unless you just have something that really takes advantage of blood tokens. I can't see this being the card you want to go to. Howling Moon, 2 colorless and a green enchantment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target wolf or werewolf you control gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, create a 2/2 green wolf creature token. I kind of like this on the surface, but I could see a lot of scenarios where the first half is just a bonus and not really a great ability. But the second half, depending on the environment, could be a really good sideboard card. It's one of those cards that once you know what everything else is doing, it could be pretty good. But I don't know if you just main deck this by itself in hopes of getting an extra creature, because a lot of times you probably won't. But if the right environment comes along, this card could be pretty neat. Hullbreaker Horror, 5, blue, 7/8, flash. This spell can't be countered. Whenever you cast a spell, choose up to 1. Return target spell you don't control to its owner's hand. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. This is pretty powerful. I mean, both of those choices are very good. It can't be countered. It has flash. This is kind of the ridiculousness you want from something where you're going to pay 7, 8, 9 mana, right? Now, I don't know if we have any efficient ways to get this into play that we can really take advantage of the ability, but overall, it's actually not too bad. It also says you can return target non-land permanent, which doesn't necessarily have to be an opponent's card. So that's another thing to think about here. If you can find a way to get this into a play efficiently, this card actually is pretty awesome. All right, we have Cemetery Gatekeeper, colorless and a red. Interesting that the vampires have people guarding the cemetery, but that kind of makes sense, I guess, if you have a thing with the zombies. So 1 in a red, creature vampire, first strike, also good. When Cemetery Gatekeeper enters the battlefield, exile a card from a graveyard. When any player plays a card or casts a spell, if it has the same type as the exiled card, Cemetery Gatekeeper deals 2 damage to that player. This card's good. I mean, this fits into mono red aggro, Boros aggro, vampire decks, like just lots of stuff going on here. It's also neat that it first strikes for 2, which helps with 2 power, so you can fight a lot of things. It's also in that interesting space because, like, let's say you are on the creature aggressive side. Well, you can remove an instant or a sorcery and really hurt the control decks, whereas that doesn't affect you much because you still have a bunch of creatures. And honestly, if you only end up taking 2 or 4 from this thing over the course of the game, it's not bad. So I'm kind of into this card. I think it's pretty sweet. You're probably going to see a lot of this one. And this also applies to older formats as well. Right, Olivia's Attendants, 4 red for a vampire menace 6/6. Whenever Olivia's Attendants deal damage, create that many blood tokens. You can pay 2 in a red to have it deal 1 damage to any target. Wow. A 6/6 with Menace is pretty stout, because it's going to get to take something down when your opponent eventually blocks. It creates a ton of blood tokens if it connects. It can just deal damage to anything by spending mana. This is a pretty good card. Like, again, I don't know if the vampire decks are looking for a 6/6 like this, truthfully, or if any of the aggro decks are. But this card, in some ways, can punch through even if you don't have the opportunity to attack, which is also good. And you're making blood tokens if you're just pinging the opponent or whatever. So yeah, this card's doing a lot of cool stuff. Again, once we're talking about 4, 5, 6 mana stuff, there's so many things in those slots. I don't know what we really do with it, but I like this card. I think it's cool. And then the last one for today is Creepy Puppeteer. 3 colorless and a red, 4/3, human rogue with haste. Whenever Creepy Puppeteer attacks, if you attacked with exactly one other creature this combat, you may have that creature's base power and toughness become 4/3 until end of turn. So this is actually pretty neat, right? It's a 4/3 for 4 with haste, which is reasonable, seems pretty solid. Has the opportunity of turning something else into a 4/3, which is nice, but it only works if you attack with it and one other thing. That's the downside. But I actually still kind of appreciate the card. Don't know if it's really going to get played because, actually, this is a human rogue. I was about to say vampire, but it's not a vampire. So maybe it has more opportunity in some spots, but we'll see. It's a neat card. I just don't know if it fits anywhere. And alright, I guess that's going to do it for today, y'all. That is day 8 of Innistrad. I don't know why I said Innistrad Crimson Vow previews. Remember, please check out the other preview videos if you want to learn about all the different cards. Don't forget to check out PowrDragn reviews and reacts here on YouTube. Link will be down in the description. And check out those memberships if you want to have a say on what's going to be here on the channel and possibly get your stuff featured, because that's going to be cool too. And finally, y'all know what to do. Like, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. That's all I have for you for now. We'll see you next time.